Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video, the first of the year, in which we're going to take a look at what I think would be one of the most interesting tier 10 in the game, the TVP T50 T51. Before we jump into it, you probably saw that I have a new microphone, so feel free to tell me how it sounds, simply because right now I'm still waiting for my new helmet to come in order for me to regulate the sound. So hopefully I did my best with what I had, and well, I will make it better in the future if I still think it doesn't sound like I want. Now let's go back to the video and let me tell you why I think the TVP is one of the most interesting tanks. It's simply because of its auto-loading mechanism, because it features 4 shells instead of 3 or 2 that we have regularly at tier 10. And having 4 shells will make a huge difference on 2 things: your ability to burst, but also your playstyle. In my opinion, the TVP is one of those original playstyle at tier 10, which makes it really relevant to play it again and again and again. As I just mentioned, 4 shells in the magazine, 310 damage per shell, so a total of 1240 hit points of damage every time you clip your 4. Which means that, well, you have the possibility of nearly destroying everything if you're in the mid game and everyone already lost half their hit points, except if it's mouse, but let's be clear, you don't encounter a lot of mouse. For the rest, we have a good gun dispersion sitting at 0.31, a great aim time of 2.7 seconds, and a magazine reload time that is still long, but not long enough to make the tank boring, because after all, 22 seconds is relatively fast, especially when you feature 4 shells. And another huge advantage of that gun is probably that you're sitting at 8 degrees of gun depression, and with 8 degrees you have the possibility of playing relatively easily on hills and hilly terrains in general. On top of that, you feature one of the greatest mobilities for a medium at tier 10, because you're sitting at 60 kilometers per hour. Even if it says average speed 39, if you equip it properly, you will never struggle with it. For the equipment, there is one thing to mention that I think is important: the fact that you need to use calibrated shells, because when you take a look at the gun in general, you will see that with calibrated, you run around 390 millimeters of penetration, which means that without this, you are sitting at 300, or maybe even less, 300, 290. And the thing is, with this tank, you need to have those extra penetration, those extra millimeters of penetration, because, well, if you miss 1 or 2 shells just because you bounce, you're going to be extremely frustrated, because after all, when you have 20 seconds of reload for 4 shells, you expect your 4 shells to penetrate. For the armor profile of the tank, there is only one thing to mention: you are pretty much a big piece of glass everywhere, but the frontal plate right here. If you manage to angle it properly, and really I mean angle it, you will be able to bounce some shells. Like right there, if you come around the corner like this and someone shoots right there, they will bounce. If you use your 8 degrees of gun depression and people try to shoot at the plate right there, they will bounce as well. You need to artificially increase your armor in order for you to bounce something. But enough talking in the garage, let's take a look at this tank in action. We have the pleasure of watching Raptor playing his TVP 51 Instigator, and to be fair, I'm quite happy with the replay he sent, because he will demonstrate all 3 playstyles you need to adopt with this tank. We're gonna start with the first one that he's doing right now, which is using your mobility in order to spot in the early game the opponents for 2 things: being able to sneak a first clip quite easily, like he's gonna do on that 41-4, and secondly, to be able to inform your teammates of the position of the enemies. Because after all, even if you have an auto-loading mechanism, as you feature a great mobility, you still have some role to play on the battlefield, like kind of a light tank, without necessarily rushing around, circling, etc. Just being able to spot in the early game in order to prevent your allies and for them to adapt. This is the first thing. The second playstyle, and we're going to see it after, is supporting your allies. Because after all, if you have an autoloader, you need to have a specific part of traditional playstyle of an autoloader. Usually what you do with autoloaders is waiting for your allies to take shots, and once the enemies are reloading, you poke around the corner, you sneak all your shells, and you go back to a safe cover. And well, even if I 100% support that tactic, with the TVP it's going to be a little bit different, because yes, you will have to adapt and try this, but you need to do it well. Sometimes you must learn how to prevent your allies from being pushed, and to do this truly with 1.2k DPM or 1.2k burst with the tank, you can prevent from pushing. Here, I think that the only little mistake our friend did here is not trying to restrain the IS-7 from pushing and trying to get on the E100 camping, because to be fair, the E100 is not a big threat right now. If he went on the IS-7 first, he would have already destroyed half his hit points, and he would have just overcome him and not allow him to circle, because now it's gonna break his teammates' line. But well, you can't be perfect all the time, and the RNG same, because he missed 2 shells, unfortunately. So you are gonna be able to see right now the second playstyle in action. What our friend is doing is, instead of staying in the back and trying to sneak shots because, oh no, I'm an autoloader, I'm not supposed to go brawling, which is true, he goes and supports his teammates. He goes in, and well, thanks to the great abilities of the 4 shells burst, he's able to kill that IS-7, which was sitting at only half his hit points. I don't know if you imagine how powerful it is for a tank to be able to kill someone in one single clip. It's just insane, and it reminds me kind of the WT Alpha E100 that we had access to during the good old days in World of Tanks Blitz. And now we are gonna see the third playstyle in action, which is a really rare one because it's only gonna happen when you're alone against multiple opponents. In this kind of situations, your main advantage, or at least your 2 main advantage, are your camo rating, because after all, you're fighting an E100 and the Mouse, which are 2 the worst tanks in terms of camo in the game, but also the worst in terms of view range. And on top of that, you also have a great mobility. So your best ally right now is to take some distance. And this is what Raptor is gonna do right now. And well, all I gotta say is that it's gonna work perfectly. So what he's doing right now, he's trying to spot the enemies. And well, he spotted the Mouse, but he did a second mistake right there. Destroying that tree allowed the Mouse, or alerted the Mouse, and now he knows where he is, even knowing that he was not penetrated, even knowing he was not spotted. Now he is, and well, he has to deal with the Mouse. Unfortunately, 2 shells completely missed, and well, now he's running out of ammo. That's the least we can say. Keep in mind that if you only have 1 ammo of a type of shell and you reload your whole clip, here for example, if he stayed on the APCR, he would have reloaded only 1 shell. And well, 20 seconds for only 310 alpha damage kinda sucks. So instead, he's going straight for the hit shell, and well, all I gotta say is that it works perfectly. 3 shells in, the poor Mouse didn't see anything coming, and even if our friend took a shot in the process, it doesn't seem to bother him, because after all, we did not spot the E100 yet. We don't know what the tank is doing, and as we don't have the information, we don't want to rush through. But now our friend is thinking, okay, if I need to kill the Mouse in order to deal with the 100, I need to go in right now. So there we go, he's circling, killing the guy thanks to its mobility, and now all he has to do is finding the 100 because it seems like he's not here. In this kind of situation, you can 100% assume that either the E100 crashed or left the battle, because it's not logic that the TVP was spotted for around 30 seconds and that the only one that tried to push him was the Mouse and not the E100 and the Mouse combined. So now all he has to do is finding it. So well, Vazo in the enemy team is saying E100 is a noob, because he doesn't know that the E100 in fact crashed and is on the other side of the game, of the map. And here you saw he switched to a PCR and bang, he got himself only 1 freaking shell loaded, which is quite hard knowing that you have 4 shells in the magazine in the first place. And now of course I'm gonna skip it to you. He goes in, he goes on the 100 straight, and well, after saying GG to all enemies because he's a nice gentleman, polite gentleman, he goes in, sneaks all the shells on the 100, and well, goodbye team, welcome, 8.5k damage and 4 kills. Victory, all enemy tanks are destroyed, and well, he got himself a juicy ace tanker that he totally deserved because he really played his tank well from the start to the end. So well, hopefully you enjoyed. If that's the case, feel free to tell me in the comments. Tell me also if you think that the sound sounds nice, because well, I changed my microphone and I'm quite happy with it. But I don't have an helmet or a sound helmet, which means that when I try to modified the settings because I have a Go XLR with me. For those of you that are aware of what it is, well, I kind of struggle. So hopefully you enjoyed. If that's the case, you know what to do, and I'm gonna see you soon for a new video. Bye.